The opinions expressed by the guests on this podcast are not necessarily those of the hosts or the producers of this show.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Renee Graziano, and welcome back to another episode of The Crisis Queen. Today I have my very dear friends Chris Perry and Brittany Spiro. We have a show for you, so let's jump right in.
What's going on? What's up?
Hey!
Hello.
First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I was watching it all. I was like, oh my God. But I love love. You know what I mean? Which we've had our conversations, but before I even go there.
We did.
Yes.
But I still got your interview in the vault. Like eventually we're gonna have to throw that out. But we had to my team, we had to organize some things.
Yeah, no. I think now it's a good time though.
It might be a good
now
time.
I have a podcast.
Yeah.
And all the press that I'm doing around it. And the relationships, you're an expert. As far as I'm concerned, you're an expert. And I just found out you are a private investigator.
Yes, I am.
I'm so excited.
You put it out to the public. Now everybody's gonna be.
Oh shit! Was I not
okay.
supposed?
They gonna block her?
No, I can't say it.
Nah, it's
No,
okay.
you
It's
can.
okay.
Wait. So then, how do you advertise?
I'm not a surveillance investigator anymore, so there's no concern about me being caught in public.
Well, I'm putting you back in the game because the next guy I find, you're gonna have to surveil. I want everything on his mother,
Absolutely.
his father, his grandparents,
Brothers and sisters too.
socials. I want it all.
I got you.
Yes, and then I'll find out if he's a narcissist. Look at this. Like, it's the
Narcissist.
perfect.
Oh, see, there
the
you go.
perfect
We should start our
storm.
own team with the LLC, right?
We should.
So get a business going.
Absolutely, you should. You know what? Because there's a lot of women out there. And that's like one of my questions. But I guess we're going to start with early life before we get to the like juicy stuff. So, do you come from similar backgrounds, household wise?
Yes and no.
Okay.
What do you think?
No, I think we came from very different backgrounds.
Okay. Both mom and dad in the house for both of you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you both grew up with two parents.
Yes.
Sibling. I know you have all sisters.
Yeah. Well, my house was very different than hers. She actually has a really interesting story in regards to her family. Whatever she's willing to share today. My family, I mean, was very different. You come from.
I think
She
the
was
cultural
born into-
backgrounds
yeah.
are different.
Okay, so the culture,
Yeah.
right. So you're Sicilian?
Yeah, I'm Sicilian and Guyanese.
Oh, wow,
And-
what a beautiful
and-
mix.
Thank
Wow.
you.
Yeah.
And then Chris is Nigerian and German.
Yeah, my dad's a
Holy
black man.
shit.
Yeah.
What
And then my mother's from the
mixtures?
country, so it's actually weird
Yeah.
because my dad is from Tennessee, Memphis.
Okay.
And he's from like, the slums, right? He comes from nothing. And my mother's like this really pretty, country woman.
Right,
She
right.
comes from Pennsylvania. So I guess that is the story of persistence, how my dad got to, how he even got my mother.
Right.
Was she was working in the grocery store, and he would go into the grocery store and he would try to talk to her, and she'd be like, I'm good, I'm not interested. And then
Wow.
he went every single day, and then she was like, I'm gonna give you a chance. I'll take you on a date, or I'll go on a date with you. And eventually, here we are now. But I think
That's
that,
super interesting.
yeah.
So, they're from totally different worlds.
Yeah.
Totally yeah, you actually-
totally different countries.
To be honest, to be completely honest, at first he wasn't accepted. And I'm 35 years old. So when I was growing up, being an interracial kid, we dealt with a lot of racism too, because a black man and a white woman together really
Correct.
wasn't accepted.
Right.
So we dealt with a lot of that stuff.
Well, we're finally getting it to where it's accepted now in the world, as it should
Oh
be.
yeah, everybody now. Yeah, kids
everybody
of all
is,
types
but
of
not
people.
every household.
No.
Still not every household.
Yeah.
And shame on the people that don't believe that two people from two different worlds and two different races or religions could meet and form a bond that is so beautiful and produce children like both of you who are both loving individuals and give something great out to the world.
Right.
And you do that with what you do for a living. You spread awareness, which basically is really spreading love. You want the women or the men that are watching your podcast know what love really is. And you, now that I know what you do, are also doing the same thing. You're spreading awareness like, hey, this might not be the right person, or this might not be the right business partner. I don't want to get into too much because I don't want to leak it all out there. Even though I just said private investigator. I'm so
It's all good.
excited.
The tea's
So
out.
fucking excited.
You know what's funny too about her being a private investigator? She does a lot of online stuff. So she'll go to people's pages and she'll be looking at their content because she has to go through every single thing. I'm not gonna do too much, honey, but and they'll be posting a lot of my videos, and she'll be and she'll be in some of the videos.
I'll be
What?
investigating somebody and, you know, their social media needs to be captured for one reason or another. And as I'm scrolling through, like a photo of us will pop up and I'm like, oh, well, we're going to go ahead and skip that one because my face doesn't
That's
need to be in the
interesting.
report.
But
funny.
it's still interesting how the people from different places that are hiring you are going back to things
Oh,
that
God.
Chris
And it's all over the U.S.
How does that
too.
make you feel when they do that? Does that?
I kind of giggle a little bit because it's kind of like, it feels naughty.
But
You know,
it's
it's kind of
flattering.
like, it's like
naughty.
it feels naughty because it's like I'm investigating you and you're sharing this picture of
You get a little soft spot for them when they post a picture of her?
It depends on what
Like,
it
give 'em a
is.
little pass?
I think that I'm like a really good judge of character. So like
Yeah.
even I feel like I could read people's faces. So
Okay.
just even based off of some photos, I get an inkling of which way, right or wrong. Because I do feel like I have a strong moral compass that is very important to me too. So like if I do come across a case and it's like, okay, this person is not lying, like they're being truthful, I will go to bat for you. Like I will
Nice.
say like, no, like they are 100% in the right. They're not doing anything wrong. Like this ends now. Like we're not going to continue this.
Good. Next reality TV show, I'm going to have you come on and you're going to tell all the other girls, she's really feels this way and she's not lying. You are an asshole.
I will do it.
So you just said your moral compass. Did you get that from home? Like,
1000%.
is that something? Yeah.
Yeah. So we were raised like traditionally Sicilian. So I actually didn't even know that I wasn't full Italian until I was like in my early teens. Like I remember calling my friend Jessica. We just talked about this and being like, I'm half Guyanese. And she's like, you're Chinese? And I'm like, no. Like, you know, like remember we went on like the internet to like look up more. And, you know, it was like every Sunday we had, you know, pasta going and we always had fresh sauce. Like we would go to church. It was always Italian music playing in the house. We always did the 7 fishes and,
Right.
you know, all those things. So then as I got older and getting a relationship with my mom's side of the family, I still heavily leaned into the way my father had raised me and my siblings. It just always aligned. And I always say like the majority, I feel like, of who I am is 1000% because of my father.
Notice I got my father watching my back. Right.
But here we go, right? We got 2 women that grew up with a father figure.
Yep. Yep.
And
As strong father figures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that Italian, more so from, well, I only know Sicilian, so I can't say any other, but the Sicilian men have a different way about them. I think
1000%.
even the women though too. The women are very, very strong. I think we're more on the jealous side and more. I think I have a little bit of jealousy in relationships, but I don't know if that's related to my culture or my insecurity. Probably my insecurity.
I think every person is jealous. Everyone.
Yeah.
It's just how you react to your jealousy is really what matters.
I failed that test many times.
Yeah.
Just like my road test. Okay, so you both come from really good households.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have any trauma in your house. Oh, Chris's face.
Nah.
Yeah.
Because I think I'd be lying
Okay.
if I said every family doesn't have trauma
Okay.
to some extent. I'm not sure what Brittany's willing to share with you in regards to that, but she's got a story.
Well, if she's willing to share,
Yeah.
you know, what I do say about the Crisis Queen, it is a safe space and it's not for me to make light of your trauma, but to make your trauma feel lighter.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been in therapy long enough that, you know, I'm able to talk about certain things without it being triggered,
Triggers.
you know. But it's actually, I do want to mention, I think it's funny that our fathers actually knew each other, which I
Right.
think that is, it kind of makes everything full circle.
Full
Like the world's
circle.
a lot
It's
smaller
that
than you think it is.
comfortability that you
Yeah.
know, it's like when Italians go into each other's house, it's like this automatic family.
Yes.
It's so strange because the way I grew up, you're not allowed in our house. Like we were really limited with friends
Yeah.
who could come
Yeah.
in the house and who could like have dinner with us, you know? So I think when you're invited into an Italian's home, it's like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, you know, it's like that
But it
whole-
means something.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it does mean something. I mean, and that's been my experience with my culture. But it's also been in the urban culture. I feel it's the same way when you're
Yeah.
invited in.
Yeah.
Because not everybody, listen, I've dated some men and their moms have not liked me at all. And I was like, but what's wrong with me? And he would be like, you're white. I'm like, but I'm not. I'm Italian.
Yeah.
But I'm Italian. Me and my mother argue over this all the time. She says, Renee, you're Caucasian. I said, how dare you? She's like, do you know what that means? You're from the Caucasus. Don't you dare talk to me like that.
Yeah.
But back to family life and trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, fill me in.
I wouldn't say trauma, but I think a lot of my experience, my humility, and just early life lessons were my childhood growing up, because we didn't come from much, right? You know, my dad really worked hard to take care of our family, as well as my mother. But, you know, we in our early years, we grew up in the projects. We grew up with not much.
And how many brothers and sisters? Sisters, right?
Yeah.
How
Three
many?
sisters.
Three sisters.
Three sisters. And I'll never forget, like, an early story. My dad got an engagement ring for my mother, and somebody actually came into my mother's room while she was gone and stole the engagement ring and left. But it was always stories like that, you know, stories where I got kidnapped almost twice. Like, you know, we lived in the hood, so like it's crackheads everywhere, like that kind of stuff. So like that was very humbling for me to see those things at an early age, and then to see my father, who is this strong Black man, going through so much, and how does he navigate? Because me being young, I'm watching my dad and seeing how he navigates through all these things, and he was always the strong man that, you know, he never complained.
Oh, wow.
He always was like, yo, I got to get this done for my family. And you didn't hear much from him. He just made it happen and joined in the military. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a man.
Right. And I say that so much. That's what we lack nowadays. I think that it's very important. I was just talking about this on my podcast the other day. I think that we've gave men, this woke generation has gave men the ability to have too much emotions.
We've given them a pass.
I don't think men should have that.
No.
I'm not saying men shouldn't be emotional. They should express how they feel, but they're too emotional. And I think there's times when men just got to eat certain things.
The
and
kids
say, you know
nowadays, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's. I think it's a weakness for a man to grow up and bitch and complain. I personally do, because what I experienced in my household, it was done. You know, hey, Dad, even, I know this is going to sound materialistic and I don't mean it this way, but Dad, I want a new car. The next morning it was there. Hey,
Right.
Dad, my friend, true stories. I had friends that couldn't afford certain things, clothes, or Dad, you know, my friend needs some money. What do we do? I don't, you know, her parents don't. My friend had it.
Yeah.
You know, hey, Dad, could you take everybody on vacation? You know, my father was my father was great for the money. He was lacking his, what's the word I'm looking for? His, not the the emotional.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, like he couldn't give it.
But that's another thing too, is they had, back in the day, they had no emotions, right? They didn't show.
Right.
So as I grow up and I see my dad, like, there was this strong man. As an adult, it's like I wish he was a little bit more emotional, couldn't express himself. But there's a balance, right, between the two. So I mean, it is what it is, right?
Well,
and it's funny that you say
look
that,
how you
because
turned
Brittany's the
out.
same way.
Yeah,
like, her
it's hard.
dad did so much for her. So how does that look for me when I get into a relationship with her? Like, now she expects so much from me because of what her dad has shown her. And what your dad has shown you, you expect so much from a man.
No, I don't. See, that's the problem with me. I don't expect from them because my
That's
father
actually crazy to hear.
No, it's really sad, because what I do personally is my father gave me so much, so I let that man off the hook. I have. Oh, we're gonna do this. I'll take care of it. So I find guys not all of the men. Like, I've dated some gangsters, straight up, like real wise guys, and I've dated shit men. And once they see they can get away with it once, so I do a lot of things that I do is out of just who I am, the
Right.
kindness.
Yeah.
If I see you having a hard day, I got it, no worries. They see it. The men today, we're talking about the woke men.
Right.
They see it and they take advantage of it. So I think when it comes to balance, I need to stop doing. You know what I mean? And that when I listen to your podcast, I'm like, yeah, that's it. Narcissist, son of a bitch, I knew it, you know?
I say it's so important to make a man wait. Like, men need to wait, because you're never going to... And I think women should make men wait, and men should make women wait as well, because
What are we waiting for?
to pursue things and people move too fast, right? And then they get disappointed. But you don't really know a person's true colors when you first meet them, correct? Like it's just they're showing you what they want you to see. And
That's
it
where
takes
the
time.
investigator comes in.
And then those actions are really prove if your words mean something.
So you came from a household where you learned
Yeah.
that the man is going to prove and show and prove. And that's what your dad did.
And that's what these young boys need is a man to and I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, but that's what these young boys need is to see a man loving a woman correctly, their mother correctly, leading in the household. Because I mean, a mom could sit here all day and teach her son how to be a son, but she can't teach him how to be a man.
Not all, well.
I think that we can argue on this.
And we will.
but let me explain where I'm coming
please.
from.
What happens if there's no man at all in that house?
She could do the best that she can.
Okay.
And she could try to, and I think that there's single moms that do phenomenal jobs, but there's things that they can't do because there's nobody, they can't see it visually. They're not seeing
Well, we're
you
also
be
not
loved
men.
correctly, right?
Right.
They're not seeing you a provider in the home, providing for the family. They're not seeing these things. You're just telling him what he should be doing.
Right.
Instead of
Okay, I
him
understand.
visually seeing it. But you know what he's seeing, and I'm not just saying you in general, he's seeing his mom get it on her own. He's seeing his mom struggle to make things happen. He's seeing his mom go through so much. So that visual
Is a woman
is
doing
where
it.
those mommy issues come in, and now they expect the same thing from their
agreed.
partner.
Agreed. I won't even argue.
I'm just saying, no, but
I won't even argue because that just made total sense where I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
So if you call somebody like you call somebody like a curse word, I like that's how visual my mind is. So now I understand when you said visual. Yeah. So if you're not seeing a man do it, you're only seeing a woman do it. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So now in your house, was it the same?
So my father was always very much like the patriarch in every aspect. Even my parents, they went from being millionaires to having absolutely nothing and having to rebuild all over again. And he was still always like that very strong beacon in the household. And the one thing, though, is that he did have emotional intelligence for his daughters.
Oh, beautiful.
You know, like he was always like, most girls, they don't want to go talk to their dad about boys or like what are those issues. And he would be like the first person that I would tell everything to.
Before your mom?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
1000%.
That's super interesting.
And we would sit and we would have some of these conversations that I guess I didn't understand what they meant at the time, but now as an adult and as a woman, I'm like, he was spot on with all of it. You know, like one thing that we were talking about recently is my father said to me, you know, not all boyfriends deserve to be husbands.
Whew.
You know, he's like,
Ain't that the truth?
not all boyfriends deserve to be husbands, and only like a certain type of man is going to be deserving of being your husband, and that's the only man that you ever have children with. Like you never give a boyfriend like husband responsibilities, or like you don't let them have access to you in that way. So that was something growing up that like me and my sister, like it was always like kind of in the back of our head when it came to, because he was always just like, no, you're the prize. Like no man is the prize, you're the prize. And so Chris and I were talking about that, and he was like, well, sometimes you could be a little bit more like aggressive towards men. And I was like, I guess because like my father always just was like, no, like you are not to be afraid of anybody, you know, like.
And I love that she was more aggressive towards other men, but you know, first meeting her and having to break those barriers was tough because she wasn't just like she had very strong energy.
Okay, so what did you have you had your heart broken?
Oh, absolutely.
Before meeting Chris, like were you ever in a really bad relationship?
Oh, a horrible one.
Okay. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's interesting for me. Like, what now? Like, well, you obviously know why her guard was up,
Right.
Yeah.
the way it was, and to find a, you know, I look at him and I think he's wonderful. I don't live with him, you know what I mean? But what I hear him say, I'd like to believe. I do believe. Let me say, I do believe you are the person.
And we're not perfect by any. I'm not gonna sit here and say we have like a perfect relationship. We go through everything everybody else goes through.
Right.
But I think what separates us from the average person is being open to communication, right?
Right.
And being able to talk through things.
All right, so
And a level of respect too, because like we talked about before, there might be days where we don't necessarily like each other. We might be in disagreement, not be seeing eye to eye, but at the end of the day, I respect him. and like I'll always respect him. So like I'm going into our marriage, I respect my husband,
Right.
you know, and I do have that. So even the days where I'm like, you know, and
They're
he's feeling the
tough.
same way about me.
Right.
There's still that level of respect where it's like, okay, I love you, I respect you, I don't necessarily like you right now, so we're gonna like come back to this conversation where we can both communicate effectively so we can get through it and then we could just move past it.
Which is also missing in relationships. But to go back to the bad relationship that you were in, so I want you to explain a little bit about that. But then I also want you to explain that when you met Chris, how you knew it was the right relationship, or did it take time?
I mean, we'll definitely get into that.
Okay, go.
So I guess starting off was I had no business being in that relationship. I was 19 and he was 32 or 33.
Oh,
Yeah.
Red
so there
flag.
was, but you know, you're 19 and you think you know everything, right?
Yeah,
and it's
I
like in
was born
reality,
that
I
way.
knew nothing. I knew nothing. I was easy prey. I was
so
somebody
did your
that-
father know about this?
He did not like it. He didn't like it. And I remember being like, but no, Dad, like, you know, just give him a chance. And he was like, listen, I think he was afraid of causing like the Romeo and Juliet effect, you know, with like your daughters, you say like, don't be with this guy. It just makes them want to be with him more.
Correct.
So instead, my father was just kind of like, okay, you're going to be in this relationship. We're going to set some boundaries, like things that are like I'm okay with and things that I'm absolutely not okay with, and never do it in front of me.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, and that's fair. And I remember it was during that time that he had that whole, like, you know, not all boyfriends should be husbands conversation with
Okay.
me, which I think, you know,
Perfect
he
timing.
he was
knew.
he was right on the money with that one. It was just very toxic, very much just the amount of women that were like he had on the side that
Okay.
like I found out about like later on.
Any physical abuse?
No, and that's the thing though. He never
Amen.
raised his voice at me, never swore at me, never put a hands on me. So I assumed kind of like, oh, well, like I'm not being abused. Like it's okay. Like, you know, like all these girls, like I hear these horrible stories and it's like, well, he doesn't do those things to me. So maybe it's not that bad. Like maybe I should just like accept it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then at a point, it's kind of like because nobody wanted me to be with him, I almost felt like I had to prove that, like, no, like, look, like I can fix him. Like I can make him into like what I think he could be. I was 19. So with that being said, fast forward, what was the nail in the coffin for me was my father passed. Him and I were still seeing each other. He sat and cried when I wrote the eulogy. He went to my father's funeral. I went to bed that night very early. When I woke up, I had hundreds of text messages and missed calls and FaceTimes. And I was like, oh my God, everybody probably thinks I off myself last night, you know? And
God forbid.
I start reading all the text messages, and long story short, he was caught with like some 20-year-old girl or 19-year-old girl, and he was almost 40 at the time.
So he had a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he liked little young
And I remember
girls.
sitting there as I was reading all of this, being like, my father died thinking that like I was going to spend forever with this loser. And I just remember feeling so sick about that. I wasn't even sick that the relationship was coming to an end because I knew it was. I was just sick that like I tolerated it for so long. And then finally it was just kind of like, I can't do this anymore, like at all.
Well, let me tell you that your father definitely died knowing you wouldn't be with him because they always know.
Well, I like to think that he sent Chris my way. So fast forward months down the road, I'm out with my girlfriends. Chris is out with his guy friends, and we bump into each other. And we've known each other for 12 years before we started dating. So,
Oh,
like,
okay. So
we knew each other.
High school days, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't necessarily say that we were, like, friends. Like,
I was completely different back in that.
yeah.
Okay.
Like,
So were you an asshole?
Nah, I was.
all the girls wanted him, so I didn't want him.
I was having fun in
He's
high school,
handsome.
but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
more than less like I was with the wrong people. Like I was more in the streets, and she was like, "Who is
Okay.
this?"
yeah. No,
Ghetto
that's-
kid trying to talk to me.
okay.
I'm not in the streets.
Yeah,
Right.
So she didn't really like who I was at that time,
Okay.
and she knew I wasn't the man that I needed to be.
Okay.
I wasn't ready. I was young. I was in my teen years, so
Right.
high
I
school.
mean,
Yeah.
I was
yeah,
still
that-
trying to experience life and meet women, and you know.
But that's interesting that my ADD's active.
No, go ahead.
So you're talking about you were in the streets, but you're watching your father who worked his ass off,
Right.
and you said went into the military.
Yeah, he
right?
went into the military.
And you decided, let me go to the street.
I think it wasn't really like in the streets where I was like selling drugs. I was just with the wrong people.
Crowd.
I was
So
with.
you're hanging out with the wrong people.
But once again, I think that goes back to who I was, right? Like I'm this mixed kid in a time period where that's the thing about mixed kids growing up was I was cool with the black kids. And I was cool with the white kids, but I was never fully accepted by either. But if it had to come to a race that I felt more comfortable with, it was my black friends because they were more accepting, but they still be like, oh, you got you're a white boy and all this stuff.
Right.
But I feel like I went to a Catholic school because I got kicked out of a public school.
Okay.
I was about to fail and flunk out. So my dad's like, I got to put you in a Catholic school. And I hated it, but I still kept a lot of my old friends. And I think that I kind of embraced them because they loved me for who I was.
Right.
As opposed to other people kind of looked at me like, yo, who's this Spanish, black, white looking kid?
Yeah, I would have never known that your father was from Nigeria. I thought you were Spanish.
So he lives here. My father didn't even know he was Nigerian, which is crazy.
But is he dark skinned?
He's black. Yeah, he's dark.
Right. So that's why I'm saying I would have never, because usually people that I know that are Nigerian and mixed still have a very strong skin tone.
Yeah.
Like
I got more of my mother's skin tone.
Yeah, I
My
thought you
mother's
were Spanish.
Yeah, no Spanish.
And I would have never known you're mixed neither.
Yeah, we're the United Nations over here.
It's wonderful though. It's wonderful, and that's what people don't know. You never judge people because you never know.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So going into that, I think that's why I ended up in that situation that I was in, and I just I had to learn. I think we all have learning lessons, but one thing I think that is important is as we're growing up, yes, we go through our lessons and we learn, but we always go back to our foundation and how we were raised. Like, our brains aren't even developed till we're 25. So when we do get older and more mature, it's like we're gonna go back to, yo, what am I doing?
See,
my
that's
parents
my
didn't raise me
excuse.
that way. Like, that's not how my parents raised me.
Right.
I gotta go back to this. I'm over here wilding, doing too much.
Right, but your brain doesn't fully till you're 25.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I fucked up so much when I was young.
Yeah, you were just learning. You were
I didn't
understanding
know
and
that.
maturing.
I'm still learning. I'm 55. Okay, that the brain doesn't really fully
You're
grow
ever
until
evolving.
it's 55. Okay, so now you meet Chris.
Yeah, so
You're
like
out.
we've known each other, we ran into each other.
Right.
Do you remember what you said to me? I felt somebody put their arm around me, and I heard,
you be my future wife?
hello, my future wife.
Yeah.
And I turned and I looked and I was like, hello, Christopher.
Mind you, I was rejected a few times in high school. Like, I tried, and there was no game at all.
Learned it from your father.
See, there we go, Renee. You know what's up.
That's right.
Exactly.
And you gotta respect that.
I kind of like laughed and was like, hi. And
I was just coming back from Honeymoon Island. I was just coming off of the reality Married at First Sight.
Yeah.
I just got back. Me and Jada decided we were going to be friends.
Okay.
I wasn't really looking for anything, but that's when it happens, right? When you're not looking.
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, at that point, I remember telling my sister, like, no, I'm not going to be married. Like, I'm just going to be an aunt to your kids. Like, I'm okay. Like, I feel like, I don't know if I have a person out there for me. And I've, like, come to terms with it, and I'm okay with it. And I remember my sister being like, no, absolutely not. Like, you're going to find your person. You're going to get married. You're going to have babies. Like, I won't even have this conversation with you.
How old were you at this point?
25.
25. Okay. Brain just grew.
Yeah, right? So literally my brain developed, and
There
I was
we
like,
go.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then my sister said to me, tonight before you go to bed, I want you to think about like your future partner, and like when you're praying, I want you to like ask God. Like I want you to like say what you want in a partner. So I remember being like, okay, I'm gonna do it just because she told me to do it. And so I was like, I want somebody that is always going to be kind to me, somebody that can be silly with me, somebody who will dance in the kitchen with me while I'm cooking. I want him to have like tattoos and muscles and dark hair, and and I'm going through all that. And the next night, my friends all dragged me out, and I run into Chris, and I'm like, no. So I need to be more specific in my prayers, right? So I'm like, there's no way it's Christopher, right? So then
you thought. So you correlated it like when
and I
you
was like, what are the chances? So then I was like, no, I'm going to be like more specific in my prayers tonight because they obviously didn't hear me correctly. So like I need to be even more detailed. So like in my prayers, I was like being more detailed. And then it was actually my cousin Greg that was like, I've never really known for Chris to like pursue somebody like actively because he's friends with all my cousins before him and I had even met. And he was like, like what's the worst that could come out of it? Like, why don't you like go out to dinner? And I was like,
I didn't know Greg said that.
Yeah, Greg was always advocating for
Getting
you.
a pat on the back.
Yeah. And
Greg's cool.
I just remember being like, okay, like I'll go out and like I'll have a free dinner. You know, like
Right.
it's
Oh,
fine.
cool.
We're gonna
See
use
that?
it for that.
Sometimes it's like
surf.
that's that strong energy right there, though. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
that's that Italian woman. We get what we want.
Yeah.
okay.
All right.
So then I finally said yes, and we had our first date, and like it went really well. And I remember going back home and being like, "There's no way, like there's no way that like my person is this guy that I've known since I was
Right.
13. Like there's just no possible way."
God was just seasoning me in the pot. He
He really was.
You know what
He
I
was
mean?
seasoning you to be the man that you are now. So
Yeah.
I feel like it happened the way it was supposed to.
And then I remember Chris saying to me, like, "You're very like walls like all the way up. Like you are not like giving me like an inch with anything. Like if you're not interested in me, like let me know. Like I'm not wasting my time."
ooh,
And I remember being like, the
who are
audacity.
you talking
But
to?
I think that was important, right?
Yeah.
In the sense where a man's got to be a man and he's got to step up sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
if I would have just kept playing the cat and mouse game and just letting her kind of like play it her way,
Right?
Yeah.
it would have went her way.
Absolutely.
But as a man, I feel like those are the leading times in your life where you're like, yo, this is what I want. And I do want to pursue you. If you're not ready, let me know. If you are, we could take this slow. We don't got to rush anything.
And how
but
old
I need
were
to
you?
know. I was 29.
Okay, so you're 4 years. Okay, but
Yeah.
that's very mature, even for a 29-year-old. I
I feel like that was important to
Yeah.
set that tone to let her know that I was serious, first of all.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you're not and you don't really want this, please don't waste my time.
So why were you so serious? What was it? Like I know you.
I was
knew
always I was at that age where I was like I want a serious relationship, you know.
Okay.
And I wasn't necessarily looking for it, but when I did start dating her, I was investing time.
Okay.
And time is our biggest asset, right?
Yep.
And as you're getting to know somebody, I feel like it was very important for me to make clear what I wanted and to understand what she wanted in the relationship.
Today's episode is brought to you by OneSkin. Renee here, and believe me, if you want to live that fabulous life like me, it all starts with your skin. Now you know I'm all about the mob royalty life, big hair, diamonds, looking good no matter what. But here's one thing, honey. It doesn't matter how much glam you pile on if your skin isn't looking good underneath. That's why I'm hooked on OneSkin. I started using OneSkin a few months ago on my face, and I can honestly say I've noticed such a difference. My skin feels smoother and looks more vibrant than ever. It's like my skin just had a new level of glow. Especially with the cold weather coming, my face hasn't felt dry or cracked at all. I'm holiday party ready, baby. OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. OneSkin unique formula works at the cellular level to help your skin feel healthy and radiant. And honestly, it feels like I've got my own little skincare secret. Treating the symptoms rather than the root cause of aging has long been the norm. Most skincare available on the market is designed to provide a temporary reduction in visible signs of aging, addressing just the surface symptoms, not the underlying decline of the skin health. OneSkin addresses skin health at the molecular level, targeting the root causes of aging so skin behaves, feels, and appears younger. Founded by a team of all women scientists, they combine tissue engineering, data analysts, and cutting-edge longevity science to create the world's most effective product to target skin aging. OneSkin believes the purpose of skincare is not just to improve how we look, but to optimize our skin biology so that we are more resilient to the aging process. They create next-level skincare. So if you're ready to experience a deeper level of skincare that prioritizes long-term health over temporary fixes, it's time to make the switch to OneSkin. Don't just take my word for it. OneSkin has over 6,300 five-star reviews for their moisturizer, cleanser, sunscreens. And here's the best part, darling. It isn't just about looking younger. It's about actually taking care of your skin so it feels amazing too. It's time to get started with your new face, eye, and body routine at a discounted rate today. Get 15% off with the code CRISIS at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with the code CRISIS. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. We only have one body, one skin, and only you can choose to make it better. Age healthy with one skin.
I wish more grown men could communicate that when meeting a woman, because I find a lot of men let women run the game, not a game, have it their way. And but then again, I think the man isn't serious when they meet the woman.
Listen, if a man wants you, he's going to come and get you. There's not going to be no confusion.
You are correct.
So if he wants you, he's going to make it clear that he wants you. If he doesn't want you, he's not going to make it clear, and you're going to know your answer.
Yeah, I've avoided that answer in many relationships, but it's not about me today. It's about the two of you.
That's the biggest thing with women. They avoid the answers. They create this like fantasy thing in their mind. Like, I want this, and like maybe he feels this way. Maybe he's interested. Maybe I'll get more from him. There is no maybes.
Yeah.
If a man wants you, he's gonna show you. Because you know why? Because men are hunters by nature, and men don't want you to be with anybody else. So if he really wants you and just you, he's not gonna give anybody else the opportunity to have you.
We're going to come back to that because I know
I'm getting deep in the relationship
No,
stuff.
I'm going to tell you why. No, I want to talk about that because I had some questions about red flags, the obvious ones and the ones that aren't so obvious. And I have a question going back to that. So can you please remember, because I'll forget by then.
Yes.
Okay, so you're dating. He tells you this, and now what?
So I think for me, when I finally was like, wait, I think that this is something more than just like casual dating. After he kind of told me like, you're not really opening up to me, like you're not letting me in. I kind of sat with that because I was like, he's right. Like I can't argue with you. Like you're 1000% right. So I invited him over and I was like, I'm gonna make us dinner. We'll have nice. And I'm cooking at the stove and he's like, hey, do you mind if I play some music? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then he put on mine and my dad's song, which is Dance With My Father Again by Luther Vandross.
Did he know?
No. Besides like my immediate family, nobody knew. And I remember like I instantly, like the hair on the back of my neck just like stood up and I had like all these butterflies. And he came over to me and asked me to dance with him. And I just froze. And I'm just staring at him and he's like, so are we gonna dance? Like,
wow.
What are you doing? And I remember being like, I was just speechless and I don't even know if I responded. Yeah. And we slow danced in the kitchen. And then I like excused myself to the bathroom.
Did you cry?
Yeah, immediately. But then I'm like, we just started dating, so you can't see me cry already. And I remember being like, am I blocking my own blessing right now? Am I like letting like my past traumas like stop me? Like it's not my intuition. It is my past trauma that's misleading me and not guiding me.
Oh.
And then at that point I was like, you know what? If we're going to do this and like we're going to do it and I need to be like all in too. And then I think that from there was when I felt safe. And then and that's where we started getting like silly together. And then I feel like that's where our bond really grew, was like in all of the little silly moments that we would have and the dancing in the kitchen and and the
you asked for it.
Yeah.
I literally have the show. Like literally like you asked.
This is our first interview that we've ever done together.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
First,
God,
yeah.
thank you so much.
I usually do a lot of my own stuff, so this is really dope that we were able
so honored.
to do this
Absolutely.
together.
I mean, we talk so much about you, so it was only right that she comes along because, in all honesty, to hear him, and for what women or men that are listening that don't know, they don't hear you. And it's so important to hear your side, to know that now more people listen. More people that listen and be like, oh, wait, he really is that guy.
Yeah, he's 1000% about it.
He talks the talk and he walks the walk. Like that is really important that people more people need to do. Like, I'm sorry, more couples in healthy relationships need to do this, because there are so many people out there in these unhealthy relationships going day by day, just staying in them, being unhappy, but you're doing it for the kids or you're doing it for whatever money. It's mostly over money. You know what I mean? Or the thought of, I don't want to be alone at 45. I don't want to be alone at 60. Well, I'd rather be the fuck alone as I am than be with somebody who isn't coming for me.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I want my hunter.
Yeah.
See that man? What's he standing next to? A tiger. You know, he was a
definition of a hunter.
He was a fucking hunter. So, you know what? Thank you for that, because that really just kind of, you know, my sister Jennifer, and if she's listening, she will always say, if he wants you, he'll make the effort. And I'm like, but he has this, but he has that, but he has, if he wants you. And it made me like make every excuse. We've had these conversations, every excuse for the man, but it's so fucking black and white.
Yeah.
It really is. It's
Men
black and
are,
white.
men are very black and white, and I think women aren't black and white, and they're full of colors, and they just need to understand. Men are just black and white. That's it. Men are very, very simple. We're very simple. We're straight and narrow.
Right.
There's no swerving.
Right. Well, not all men. I find but then again, I'm probably
The ones that you
I
find,
take clown.
well, I'm saying the ones that you find that are swerving,
Yeah.
They're not men.
they're not the ones
They're
that
not
are
men.
interested.
You aren't men. All of you. All of you. No, I'm serious. I've had the worst luck in relationships. All right.
But I feel like you have come so far. Even from the last time I see you, like you look really healthy. You look happy.
I
You look like
stopped
you're in a really
dating
good
completely.
place.
Well, I had to die, Chris, in order for this to happen, and I did on September 18th. I had an OD that was horrendous, and I think I was sober. I had like 6 months, and I went out and I did some dumb shit, and it cost me my life, literally, in a hospital for like somewhere between 8 and 10 days. I'm really not sure. Had to learn how to walk. Like really, it was like somebody.
What?
It was a fentanyl overdose, and it's not even my drug of choice. Cocaine was, and it was laced.
It was laced.
And died in a restaurant, but had 4 ribs and a double fractured sternum broke. Like really deep shit. But I was, and I'm gonna say it this way. I was in such a dark space with the guy that I was dating, and it was a constant, I blame myself for everything. How could you not know? How could you not see? You've been through this how many times already? It's you. And it was me. At the end of the day, their shit, but it was me. I was picking it.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to say no. So, you know, before we started, I told you I lost somebody very, very dear to a suicide. That rocked, like really, it changed me. And I finally found, I finally felt like I had my personal angel up there to help me walk through, because he was like a brother and like a good person I could call. But I changed. Something changed.
Man.
Something changed. I was losing my son. My sister Jennifer still wasn't talking to me. We were like, we didn't talk for a year and a half. Like, and Jennifer is like my, like, you know what? She's my younger sister, but I look up to her. She's experienced so much in her life and has gotten through it. And I'm like, I haven't even been through that. And how come I can't fucking survive, you know, these choices? And they were my choices. Yeah. And they were very poor choices. Yeah. But that's why, speaking to you, I think everything started to like really come to light. Like, this is on me, man. And I did this pity party shit, this woe is fucking me, and that's what happened. I don't blame anybody else. I can't even blame the drug dealer who fucked it up, because ultimately I did it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to bring it all back to why I look healthy is because I've eliminated men from my life completely now. So it's been since April of 23 that I've totally detached. No dating, no nothing, not sleeping with anyone, none of that shit. I don't even think I talk to anyone like a man. And I think, you know, Brittany had said, oh, you're doing it for you. I'm not doing it for me. I'm just kind of had to detach. Because hearing this story, now that this is what I want. Like, I'm going to pray tonight. Like, my list is going to be detailed. That's probably why I haven't met no one. Mine is very detailed.
Well, don't go over the top. Don't make it like impossible. Well, you ain't never gonna find.
You're 55, bitch. Slow it down.
He like, no, I'm tired. I can't do all these hurdles. I'm good.
But no,
The basics. Get
just the basics.
the very important
God-fearing
things.
man.
Yes.
Respect.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see it, you know, between the two of you and to get to know you. So I'm so happy you both could do this. And what an honor for it, you know, to be on the Crisis Queen.
I'm very happy that you had us. This is
Thank
awesome.
you.
Like when you mentioned it, I'm like, first of all, I was happy for you for having your own podcast.
Thank
and then
you.
second off, I was like, this is the first interview that we're going to be doing together. And I think that all of us and the energy you bring, this is just going to be a really cool interview.
Yeah.
Because you know what, it's an honest and a safe space. And to hear, you know, I love interracial relationships. more than anything because of the different cultures. And then when you really come together, we're all not different. We're so much the same, you know? So that whole, outside what the world wants us all to believe and think is not true. When you find your person, no matter what, it's your person.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's circle back. I had a moment there. They're
Amen.
going to be like, Renee, it's not your fucking interview.
No, this is a
But I think-
conversation.
I think it's important because I wasn't who I am today.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't. I was happy and cheerful because I was in good company, but I wasn't truly happy with me. But now that I'm happy with me, I think I'll start, it'll come back. But
Yeah.
anyway.
And that's how it works, man. Isn't it crazy how energy works? Like
Yeah,
other
energy's a
people
real
can tell
thing.
when your energy's off,
Yeah,
even if you try your best not to show it.
absolutely.
And then you probably felt the same way with people you meet, and it's so weird how
Do
how
I
that
ever?
works. Like
Yeah.
it's just energy's so real and it's so vibrant when you're in the room.
Yeah, if
And
you
can
walk
just
in a
feel
room
it.
and you're like, if you are my sister Jennifer will tell me I'm the Debbie Downer a lot of times, and it's okay, but she also doesn't understand that it's very hard to be out with everybody who can drink and enjoy themselves, and and then I'm that one, and it's not even, and it for me, it's not alcohol, it's not my drug of choice, it's not that. It's when I get in the really happy atmosphere and I see all the happiness and I'm so unhappy that I have to leave. And she don't get it. She's like, you're the Debbie Downer. I'd rather leave than be the fucking Debbie Downer for the whole party.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, here's a good one. What is your definition of love?
What is my definition of love? Do you want to answer that first?
I wanna
Well,
hear
she's
you-
gonna have her
about
own
to say,
definition,
I was
I'm
like,
sure.
I want to hear yours.
I think my definition of love, like the best way I could explain it, is loving somebody enough to know that love is never going to just be enough, and being able to understand that there's going to be times when I want to realize that I love you and spend the rest of my life with you, and that I'm willing to work when the time comes through things with you and not give up on you. So I think love, the initial idea of love is somebody that you care a lot about, but it's also caring about somebody so much that when you don't
Like them.
like them, or when you're going through a hard time, you still love them enough to want to work and put the work in.
I love that answer.
And I think that's my definition of love.
Okay. What is your definition of
For
love?
me, I feel like love is, I equate it with peace. So I love to say that, like, when you come over to our house, like, you just feel like peace, you feel calm. My nervous system is at rest. Like, I'm able to go to sleep at night and I don't have like any worries. I'm not worried about him. I was saying with one of my girlfriends, when it goes from like really caring about somebody to really loving somebody, when it's pure love, I don't worry about him going out and embarrassing me or cheating on me or hurting me. I worry about him not coming home to me.
Right.
Right. So like your fears,
safety.
your fears completely change when you're with your person. Like all the time people are like, he has like so many followers, like, and all these women follow him. And I'm like, well, he could have 20 followers, and if he didn't make me feel safe, then it wouldn't matter.
Right.
Right. So, it's like he makes me feel safe. He always lets me know where I stand. Like there's no second guessing, like, does he like me?
Right.
Like he lets me know that he loves me in his actions every single day, that for me, it's peace.
That's beautiful. So it's the confidence in the relationship and the communication that really created the love between the two of you. Like that, knowing that you have loyalty. It's loyalty.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it's loyalty, respect, and honor. Like, growing up in my house, that's like the three things that my father made sure we ate.
Yeah.
Loyalty, respect, and honor.
Yeah.
And both of your fathers, hearing about them, that seems exactly the same message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Exactly the same.
And putting it first too, I think before anything is God, right? Because that's who I report to every day about my actions. My actions, I don't say. It's so easy when you don't have God in your life to say, well, I forgive myself. It's okay. Like nobody knows about it. But
Right.
when you have God in your life,
He knows about
He knows
it.
about everything. He's holding you accountable for everything.
Everything.
And for me, let's just say I went out and did something I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like, that's not just heavy on my heart. Because I could be like, oh, whatever, it's just a mistake. But like, God is watching. Like, yo, you made a mistake, and you know what? You have to pay for that one way or another.
Okay.
Like he's gonna hold you accountable. So that's why like I try to walk a fine line too, because I know that God is holding me accountable for my life, and I know that it's very important for me to live through God, especially if I want to be in a successful relationship, if I want to receive my blessings, and if I want to continue that connection with God. It's very important for me to try my best to be the man of God, even when I fail, getting in my prayers, reading my book, and getting more aligned, because it's so easy to get sidetracked.
Sure is.
Yeah.
So the relationship with God is like so important.
100%.
And that's what's also missing in relationships, very, very much. I don't know if you know the couple. I don't know his first name right now. Letitia Gardner. Do you know what that is? Roger Gardner. He was a football player, an NFL player.
What about him?
No, I'm not familiar.
You have to follow them. They have a relationship very similar to the two of you. They live by God, and I think, like you said so much, like he's gonna know you screwed up, and he's the most important person because he's the one that the blessings come from. So if you walk by light, you stay in the light.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's very true.
And I notice like in things in my life, when I'm off, it's because I'm not praying. It's because I'm not, awareness of God. It's like step 11 in the 12 steps. And I think everybody needs to be aware of. I mean, if you don't believe, I'm sorry. But if you're a believer, then you should truly believe that it's only going to come from God.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Amen.
the free will is ours, but the blessings are from above.
Yes.
I mean, I firmly believe that it's God that drops those beautiful jewels for us, that sends you your person.
And without God, your relationship will fail, because at the end of the day, like, you're going to give in to temptation. You're not going to have no protection. Like, it's so easy to give in. And if you don't have that prayer, and you ain't staying in that book, and you ain't staying close to God, it's so easy to slip up and be like, make those mistakes, because the enemy's always trying to attack you, right? It's always coming for you in different angles. And if you're not able to realize that and be like, yo, this is...
Oh, absolutely. I always say that the
is
devil
evil.
has me by my ankles. And
sure.
I do feel at times I'm being stretched. Like I do know, like when I want to do something wrong, I literally go, I know you see me. I know you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I have the two of them at me. But they always say that, the devil comes for you at your strong when you're about to make the greatest changes in your life too.
He doesn't like to see happy families, happy marriages.
no.
Like, he wants to break that up, and because that shows unity, that gives hope to people.
Yeah, it does. And I'm
doesn't
so
wanna give
happy
hope
you
to
guys
people.
did this together because it is such a positive. It's such a positive. It's so important for people to see. Like my son is, he's 30 now. My son is 30 and my daughter-in-law just turned 31.
He just turned 30?
Yeah, he just
crazy.
turned 30 with his 4 kids. But it's
love
so
it.
important because, I want him to get this message. They're a young couple and I see them going through so much with 4 children and, lines of work. And he works construction. She's a school teacher. You're not even making it in today's world on 2 great, it's just it's crazy. But peace in the household will lead you to peace in your relationship too. Or peace in the relationship will lead you to a peaceful household.
Yeah.
One lesson you learned from your parents that you carry into your relationship.
You want to go, honey?
I'll say yeah. I think that my parents, as much as they loved each other, they definitely lacked communication.
Okay.
There was a complete lack. So my parents are like kind of on the extreme, on like the spectrum, where my dad was like, he'll say it once and then he's quiet. He's not going to use his energy to keep repeating himself. He's not going to argue with you. He's not going to raise his voice. He's not going to fight with you. Where my mom is, where she feels unheard, it's, it'll keep going on. She'll keep arguing and fighting. And for me, it was kind of like, well, I don't want to scream. I don't want to feel like I have to yell to be heard. And I realized that I was kind of taking after my dad, where I would just completely just shut down. I'm not talking. I'm not saying anything. I'm not reacting in any type of way. And I realized how unhealthy that was. So I had to learn how to be somewhere in the middle of the both of them to not repeat that cycle.
Okay.
And so that was something that I had to work on a lot. And especially when he, came to me and was like, what are we doing? Kind of like you're with me or you're not. Like, I'm not wasting any more time. Like, it really did force me to be able to communicate my feelings more because he's not psychic. So I
Right.
can't just expect him to understand like what I'm thinking because that's ridiculous.
Right.
So like I had to learn how to communicate more effectively with him and say like, I need this or like this hurt my feelings. And that way it doesn't become an argument. It doesn't become this big thing. We could just talk about it and then it's over with. And I'm like, wow, I wish I brought this up sooner,
Right.
instead of like holding it in.
What about you?
The biggest lesson I've learned from
Yeah, that you either carry in or changed from your upbringing.
the biggest lesson I've learned from my family, I'm gonna go back to what I was speaking on, is being present, being a man that's present in the household. I think that's the lesson that I've learned, and that's the lesson that God wants me to teach everybody.
That's
is,
the one you
is be,
saw.
be a present man. Yeah.
That was your visual.
Yeah.
So it's easy to emulate something that you can see all the time.
Yeah, see? There
Go,
you
Renee.
There you go, Renee. You coming with it. Relationship coach Renee. You about to be a
Yeah,
relationship
don't
coach.
send them to me. No, I'll have somebody checking up on them though. I want to go into a little bit more about your podcast.
Okay.
Okay, so you have 3 sisters. When we spoke, you learned a lot from your sisters when it came to narcissistic men, right? So why don't you talk about that? Because that's also very interesting because you're definitely not a narcissist. I mean, everybody has narcissistic tendencies, right?
Yeah.
I'm reading a little bit more about that. I do have some myself, actually. Not attractive. But tell me how that led you to your podcast.
Oh, man. Well, my sister had a baby when she was 16.
Okay.
That was like a lot for me because I feel like I wasn't, my dad and I had to step up,
Right.
And raise my niece
Right.
at a young age. I think I was what, in 7th, 8th grade, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. Maybe before. No, it was before that. But seeing that made me realize a lot. Because women are gonna go through things, especially when they're young and they're trying to grow. Like I've seen them face heartbreaks. Just that relationship alone, seeing my sister raise a kid at such a young age by herself and just go through so many different emotions. Like she was nowhere ready and equipped. Blessed and luckily she had us
Right.
as her foundation. But she just made, a bad mistake that blossomed into my beautiful niece. But at the same time, it's like seeing that I was exposed to a lot of things early, and seeing that has kind of created like a soft spot when it comes to women. I think a lot of people think like when I talk about women, it's like, oh, he's just doing it for views or likes and stuff. But like this comes from a very passionate place of mind.
Right. That's why I'm asking you because your podcast is really based on things that you've seen and learned, and now having Brittany and knowing her experiences, like it's only like I said to you, it's only right and fair that you do share.
Yeah.
And a godly person would want to spread the message of hope. And thank you for sticking up for women.
I feel like that advocate is needed, right? And it needs to come from like a real, like experienced, genuine place. And I think that's what I do is that, and also speaking for men too. And from my dad's point of view, seeing my dad being the man that he is and being the advocate for men as well. We actually just started our new podcast, CrysisQueenPodcast. And my co-host, Johannes Bailey, who's here with us right now. We talk, it's not like your average podcast where, we just interview people. Like, no, I don't want you to be comfortable when you're sitting in that chair. I want to have very uncomfortable conversations. None of our conversations are comfortable. Most of them are very uncomfortable. And that's what I feel like is very important because it's very easy for us to sit down and smile and not in general, just in general to have talk about the good times. But I want to talk about the very hard times because I want people that are watching to understand like, yo, like this is I'm
real
going
shit.
through this stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I want to touch on because my life and the things that I've seen growing up necessarily weren't the sweetest. So
absolutely,
and there's
I
a kid
commend
right
you.
now growing up that's in the same situation. Like, yo, He's looking for hope, or a woman's had a baby at 15, 16. She's looking for hope, and she's like, I got nothing. And that happens a lot where they reach out to me, "Yo, Chris, thank you for the videos. Like, I've never heard a man speak like this before. I've never heard this insight." And
that's what I did. I reached out to you and said, like, I felt like, oh, wait, that he knows what he's talking about because I'm experiencing it. And to hear it from a man, to know what a woman is experiencing means you have to know. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, how could a man know? Like, well, because we're so different, but not really, because he picked up on it and from being in the house. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So that's what we're doing, and
okay, I love it.
I feel like that's what God got for me. He wanted me to do that. He wanted me to be a little tough and give some tough conversation and hold people accountable.
I think the world needs it. I think there's a lot of couples, again, like my son and my daughter-in-law, like I think there's conversations that have to be had because we wake up every day and we do the same thing. It's just motions. And watching all these young kids in relationships, the toxic people that are out there. Yeah. It's terrible. But what was the conversation I wanted to touch on? I told you to remind me. Shit. Okay, so we're going to talk about red flags. So I want you, because you are an expert at this. So what are the so if we were speaking to men and women out there, what are the obvious red flags
for men or women?
For men, well, that's the thing. So is there do men and women have the same red flags?
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay, so give me some obvious ones, because then I have a follow-up question.
I think some of the biggest red flags is that I get DMs about are women that don't hear from a man. A man's not being consistent.
Okay.
Like he messaged me today. He told me how he feels about me, but he hasn't talked to me for a few days or a week. Or we were supposed to go out tonight. He canceled it and he's out with his friends, or he's doing this, or he doesn't tell me how he feels. And I think that those are all red flags, because that's a man running away from you. He's not interested.
He's not interested, but he's keeping you on the hook.
Yeah, he's keeping you where he wants you for when he wants you, and when he doesn't want you, he disappears.
Ooh, that's like a whole T-shirt right there.
And I think for women too, like that's, women do. I think some women have a hard time being honest when they're not interested, and they just kind of do the ghosting thing and they avoid the whole conversation. So I think that men need to realize that, if a woman's not being consistent as well, leave her alone.
Right.
Because if a woman, if a woman's interested, she's going to pursue you as well. She's going to show interest.
Yeah, the excuses. I think excuses are a huge one. I think love bombing.
Love bombing is huge.
Who fucking created that shit? They need to be smacked. Because that's the new thing. You know that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like love bombing did exist years ago. Yeah. Like I'm talking about when I was younger. It was very much present, but not like, I think all these guys watch these movies. I don't know if there was a class on love bombing somewhere, but men got very hip on con men. And that's where it goes to. Con men know how to, it's a con.
But it always fades away. And that's why I say make them wait, because love bombing always fades away. It's not forever. And it's always heavy in the beginning, and then it slows down. And then when they mess up, it gets more intense, right? Because now they got to make up, they got to drop flowers and stuff off. But that's all superficial.
They either drop flowers or they get extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
And very angry at you.
But what if a woman, let's talk about if a woman's love sign is not acts of service. Not acts of service. What am I thinking of? I can't think of it right now. Gifts.
Right.
Gift giving.
What if a woman's love language is not receiving gifts? Then what does love bombing really mean to them? Because then I think that's so important for love languages, for people in relationships to understand the importance of love languages. Right. Because if I'm not doing what you love, you're not going to receive it the same way.
You're not speaking my fucking language.
Yeah, you're just doing what you love.
Right. I'd rather, and I'm going to say this on camera, we might want to bleep out the rest. I'd rather have, I don't even want to. I'd rather have the emotional connection and the spiritual connection than all the gifts. I'm not saying that I don't want the big house and all those other things. I'm just saying the Birkin bag, it's really nice, but with that amount of money, we could feed a family and pay somebody else's rent. That's a gift to me. Right. You know what I mean? I'd rather have the man who pays attention, who do we text? What are you in a texting relationship? Pick up the fucking phone. That's the other thing. Pick up the phone. If he's not picking up the phone, I think that's a red flag.
What is your love language?
What is my love language?
Or like top two, if you can't narrow it down to one.
Well, you said you like
I like
physical touch.
I want a man who's present. Like when he's with
So
me,
quality
he's with
time.
me. Yeah. So like I get business and stuff, but when you're with me, you're with me. And a man that is consistent. Like consistency is everything.
Yeah.
Like we have plans. Okay, let's go. You know, I don't. Again, gifts are really beautiful. They are, but they're not what's going to keep the relationship. For some girls, you know,
Yeah, that's your love
because
language.
that's what they, but it's not. I don't even believe that's the love language. That's like that's what they're in there for altogether. And I say that because I see a lot of fucking girls doing it. It irritates the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, look what I got. I got this purse. Oh, bitch, please. He slept with somebody else. Who cares about your purse?
For people, I feel like when their love language is actually gifts, it's more so like it's the small things like they picked up your favorite chocolate bar like out of the
Okay,
grocery store.
that-
Like I feel like
Meaningful
it's
gift.
like you
Meaningful
thought
gift.
of me
Okay.
and you wanted to gift this to me. I feel like the women that I know that that's their love language. Like they
Okay.
never want the big things. It's the little things
I agree.
that they want that like really makes them feel seen by their
Yes.
partner.
I like that for me too because
Yeah.
and again it goes back to my father gave me the big gifts. It's not the big gifts that are
you want.
necessary.
Yeah.
It's the I guess the attention and affection I didn't get from him is what I do require from the man now. So what are some of the red flags that aren't so obvious? Like that a woman wouldn't be looking for, but she should be paying attention to.
Red flags that aren't so. I mean, that's tough because the red flags that aren't obvious, it's like.
What color are they? Orange?
I think those are the ones that take time to really notice,
Okay.
to see. And that could be like how he interacts with his family. If he has
Okay.
kids, how he interacts with his children.
Okay.
Have you seen them
And
grieve?
sometimes that takes time to actually be able to see that because you don't get to meet the children in the beginning. And he could be telling you one thing, and then in the back, it could be like a completely different story. Like
Right.
he might not be the best father, or
Okay.
his family might not have the nicest things to say about him in the reality of who he is. But
Which
I
is
think,
probably the most important red flag in the world is what your family really thinks of you, right?
yeah, I mean, if they're honest and they're not like toxic family members,
Right.
if they're genuine people.
But then that's another red flag. If he comes from a toxic family, there's pretty much
If he comes from a toxic family, he might not necessarily be toxic.
Okay.
But you're not gonna have a good time with at the family cookouts.
yeah. I wonder how my son feels because I do. Yeah, I wonder. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to ask him that question. I'm definitely gonna have to ask him.
But I think unobvious red flags will come out in due time. Just
Mm-hmm.
be patient and you'll see them. I think that's the best advice I could give is when it comes to unobvious red flags, just be patient. Make sure that you're slowing down in the relationship and everything will slowly reveal
Bad
itself.
stuff. Okay, 3 words of advice, not 3 words, 3 things that you can offer a woman when she's coming out of a bad relationship and meets a nice guy.
One, I don't think a lot of people take the time to really heal themselves. So I feel like for me, I had to sit and be like, okay, well, what did I also contribute to the relationship that caused this outcome, right? Because none of us are going to be 100% innocent in any relationship, even if like you're comparing the two and the scale is completely tipped. For me, it was like, okay, well, I also allowed certain things and I didn't put my foot down and I didn't respect myself enough to remove myself sooner. So I feel like you have to have that level of awareness, like self-awareness to know, okay, you know what, I need to take a step back. Or a lot of times too, like going back to like where women ghost men, I know there's like fear because a lot of women have had like really bad experiences of being like, hey, I'm not really interested. And then they go crazy because they don't want to take no. So I always tell women, trust your intuition. There's a reason why women's intuition is so powerful. And that's what makes me successful too in my career field. I think it's easy, like me and my girlfriends, we're yappers. We yap, you know? So it's like very quick to be like, oh, well, he made me mad or he, you know, and wanting to kind of vent. But sometimes it's like, no, you don't always need to vent. Like I should be talking to him about what upset me and not everybody else. So even
That's
like
great advice.
if him and I have like a disagreement or something, I don't go run to tell my mother. I don't go run to tell my sister. Because at the end of the day, like they're going to be loyal to me. They're always
Right.
going to have my back. And now I'm painting a picture of him that might not be accurate because I'm upset in that moment. But
Okay.
I'm going to get over it. I'm going to forgive him. We're going to move on. But now my family is looking at him like, wait, well, I don't forgive him. You know, so I think that level too, that if it's not going to be kind of like a positive thing and they're not going to also hold you accountable, and if it's going to turn into like a bash fest, then maybe those aren't conversations you should be having with your friends and family, and maybe
That's
talk
so
to your
important.
therapist instead.
That's huge to hear. Like, don't go to your friends with all your man
But I
problems.
also think it's important to have healthy friends because I don't think you should put the burden on your relationship completely where you guys are just overloading on each other.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
it's good to have some really good, healthy friends that
Oh,
you
absolutely.
can talk about. certain
Right, but they
topics
have to
with.
be able to not bash you and have,
Yeah.
you know, a
Absolutely.
conversation back
Yeah.
because
Yeah, are they
I
obstructive
have
of
two
it?
different
Yeah.
groups of friends. I know when I bring certain things to my friends, they're so brutally honest that I don't like them when we're done with the conversation.
Yeah.
But they're
True
holding you,
story.
they're holding you accountable though.
And I don't like them when I'm done with them. However,
Yeah.
I love them for pointing out my flaws or things that I make mistakes with. You know what I mean? So I do have a solid group of women that I have tremendous respect for. So that's really important. What are your three?
Could you repeat the question?
I can't remember it.
I'll keep
What
it
are
quick
your-
because I
your
know we don't got much
three
time, so I'll keep it
advice?
very quick.
Advice. Three things of advice you would tell couples that are, you know, getting together and want to. Best advice for couples.
That are trying to get together and get to know each other.
Well, they are together. Best advice in a relationship.
Okay, the best
Three.
advice I could give with couples in relationships would be take your time. Communication. Make sure you guys are communicating at all times how you guys feel. And make sure you guys are taking the time to learn each other and understand each other. Those are like very important.
Very, very important. And I will make sure we plug everything at the end of the show. Everybody's social media.
Got it.
Tell
you.
us the name of the new podcast again.
The new podcast is going to be Chris GQ Perry Podcast. I'm
As
the host.
the eyebrow
my
went
co-host.
up.
That's the GQ
My
part.
host is Johan. I'm the host, and my co-host is Johannes Bailey.
I love it. I want to thank you both very, very much for coming today.
Thank
This
you
has
so
been
much
wonderful.
for having us. This was awesome.
Yes.
I
I'm
appreciate
so
it.
excited about the wedding, and I will
Can't
be
wait to
there
see you
with
there.
bells on. Your
All right.
fairy godmother will show up.
Love it.
Absolutely.
We need you there.
Yeah,
Thank
we would love
you.
to have you there.
Absolutely.
All right.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another great episode of The Crisis Queen with your girl, Renee Graziano. Thank you, and God bless.
Peace.